Hello to everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Federico, I'm a board game designer from Italy, and this podcast is all about creativity, storytelling and people behind board games. And in this first and special episode, we will talk about people behind indie board games projects, until to comics and beyond. But before we start, let me say sorry. Sorry to all the English speakers out there. Sorry for my Italian accent, sorry for my grammar mistakes. But what really matters here is the story we're about to share. And today I'm really happy to have with me Joseph Oliveira, which is the founder of the Afterlight Comics, an independent publishing house from Wales that has become known for its dark, emotional and beautifully atmospheric horror stories. Horror. Did I pronounce well? By the way, this fits great with this spooky season and Halloween. Joseph have created a space in the indie comic world where the horror meets folklore, and also every single story feels so personally. We also had the chance to collaborate together on one of its projects, which called Tales Unbound, and which it runs as a lot of his projects on Kickstarter, where we'll talk about his journey as creator of the Afterlight Comics, how life is about, being present online on social media, growing your audience, and also be present offline in Comic-Cons or convention. We will talk about the evolution of the Afterlight Comics and what next for him and for its own story. So consider this video as a podcast, put your headphones on and take this journey with us. Thanks again to all of you. I really want to say thanks to Joseph, and now space for this interview. So Joseph, I want for the second time, if you want to introduce another time yourself and tell something about you.
Yeah. So basically, I'm Joseph Oliveira, and I started up Afterlight Comics, which is a horror comics publisher. The journey to that was basically I used to make short films when I was a kid, around teenagers, and then around teenager age, and then I was nominated for Young Person's BAFTA around 2008 when I was 18. So that gave me a bit more confidence to keep trying to pursue filmmaking. And then I was saving up money to move to Canada for a temporary work visa to try and break into the film industry over there, because in the UK it wasn't as bustling, the filmmaking scene. So anyway, this job came into for a car factory job, and I'm just going to work there temporarily, save some money up so I can have some more money to move to Canada for a bit. And then that temporary job turned from 1 year to 2 years to 10 years. So then around the 6-7 year mark working there, was just getting burnt out, not being able to follow my passion or, do my passion, which was tell stories. And then I read the Walking Dead comic series, and then it just totally opened my eyes to that. There was more to superhero. There was not just superhero comics out there. There was, you could do horror, which was my favorite genre. And then, fast forward, I released my first comic, and then I was going to comic conventions up and down the country on the weekends while I was working at the car factory in the week. So every spare minute time I was writing scripts, publishing the books, packing the books, doing Kickstarters. And then during COVID, I thought I'd established the presence enough as a publisher to try and give this to go full time. And that was 5 years ago now, and never looked back at the old job, and that was it.
So did you never miss your old job?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. It just it was just one of those jobs. So it was a production line. It was loading the same few parts into a machine and pressing the button and then going. And then so sometimes I could just do autopilot, and I'd, in the 20 seconds in between the windows closed, I'd write some ideas for a story or an arc or something for a script. Because time, I didn't have that much job back then. So
One question that I missed to ask you last time was, every time, yes, as I've done for 12 years a job that was a job that not was my dream job, but it was okay job. It's pay my bills. And my question is, those type of pause job, they can be an opportunity, for making the dream come true. It's a pause job, a job where you just pause for a moment, an opportunity for doing that, an opportunity for still have sparkling of how can I make my job.
yeah, exactly. I think, like I said, it was only the last 3 years of the job that I started making comics, so I could scale up from there. I still had the security of money and stuff. Well, like any business or any
Yeah,
endeavor, the first couple of years, it's completely natural to lose money, um, which is probably what I did because I wasn't because I had a financially secure job. I was not being as careful maybe with like margins of things and how things were done and how things were produced. But that's something you learn as you go along. But yeah, of course, like if you don't just pack your job in and think you're going to do this, that, and the other. I think you obviously have to have things in place and be sensible about it. Especially in comics, it's not something you just release and then you make a load of money and stuff. You have to build your audience over time, and like I have with, I think I've crowdfunded 60 plus Kickstarters now over the years, and that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have done the first one as I did, and the next one after that, and fulfill them and be consistent and be communicate to people all the time that this is on the way, this so people can trust you as well, and then
yeah,
be loyal.
yeah. So growing your type of audience was also a challenge, as it was for you to create your own business, right?
Yeah, it was all completely organic, it was all from people I'd met at conventions for the first year or so afterwards as well. Everyone that signed up to the newsletter was someone either had supported the Kickstarter or supported me at a convention. That was the way I would be that direct, have that direct access to the person that buys your stuff, because back then and still now, even worse, that it's even harder to get things in front of people with algorithms and Facebook feeds and all sorts, unless you're paying to play to
Yeah,
get your stuff in front of people. That obviously costs a lot of money sometimes. So I had the instinct early on to really have get people's contact details and have that relation and have a newsletter every month explaining what was not sell, what's going on behind the scenes,
of course.
what's to be excited about. It's not all about just selling your comic. It's about, you as the creator. I think it's really important that in this day and age, to be seen, you have to have an identity, which is, maybe that person behind the business, and have them at the front facing. I was just at London Comic Con at the weekend, and just seeing people and seeing their stuff in front of them, seeing that they've created, or speaking to them how they've done it, and is amazing. And I think you get invested a hell of a lot in somebody or someone by their story and what they've done. So I try to do that as much as I can, whilst doing everything else.
Of course. So what you are telling to us is okay. It's my business. It's to sell the comics, but also big part of my communication. It's to create fidelity with my audience. And also you are saying that for doing that, I also have to take my life on the social media. So not only as I packaging my comics, but also as was storytelling, for example, from the art, from the storytelling, and also from all of these parts of your work are also combining with or your daily life troubles. Do you have and do you also have to face to combine those two types of your reality of your life onto social
Yeah,
media?
absolutely. I think honesty and transparency is so important, and I think people will relate more because in life everyone goes through. It's not just all ups. We all have our downs as well. And I think if you can be honest and transparent, people will relate to you even more, and everyone kind of like roots for an underdog sometimes. But this life, I'm not gonna. I think that's who I am as a person, to be honest. So if you talk to me at a convention, I'll tell you straight how things are. If it's things that are hard, things can be hard, but things can be great as well. But yeah, I think it's just one of those things. Like we see social media a lot as well, don't we? There's a lot of fakery. People's are just our best parts. But to give an example, when I launched my board game, it failed. Like it just wasn't reaching the goal that I wanted, and then I posted that publicly, even though I just wanted to
Yeah, I
jump
remember.
in
I
a,
remember.
jump in a hole and swallow me up, and it's you feel embarrassed, you feel shamed, you already let down. It was a big personal blow to myself, like when you put so much work into something, and you know it was a really really tough time personally for myself with doing that. I took a risk and a punt and trying something new, and it didn't work out. So, but instead of you know moaning or moping, I just knuckled down and learned what went wrong, what could go better, and came back and was funded within I think 12 hours, first 12 hours when I came back and relaunched it, and then because I was transparent, I can show people then, that we all get our knocks, we get our knocks and we can get back up and we can all come back again and, show that it was possible, even I could do it. So
So one of my next question is Afterlight Comics is now existing from how many years?
I think it's 8 years now, but I've been doing it for full time 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my question is because we are talking about your readers, your audience, and also what you're posting on social media about your life and your business. Have your readers' expectation changed through the years? I mean, um, they they grow with you and with your business, and so did they change, something, and did they change a request from you?
I think that's a good question. I think to be honest, because I have built over, series of years, series of campaigns that there's an element of trust, with myself and the reader that, you're going to get a book, you're going to get a quality design book, you're going to get good art, you're going to get a decent story, at least, entertaining story. So I think I've never had requests as such, but it's more so maybe myself, I really want to do a sci-fi horror, or I really want to touch this. I don't want to just do ghost, stories. That's why when I launched Ghost Island, a year later I launched Afterlight Comics because I didn't want to just be known as Ghost Island. I wanted to do more. So that was a good early step to do, I think, because then people knew Afterlight Comics for horror, for then you're going to get all these different types of horror along the way. So I think, yeah, I think no one's really ever requested. It's kind of been, like I say, or we're bringing out a new comic every month, sometimes two new comics every month. So there's going to be something for everyone. And I think it was really helped to my advantage that early on I established that we were going to be a horror comics publisher. So I think as a horror fan, I think horror fans in general are quite open to all different types of horror. If you like horror, you're gonna probably like everyone probably has their favorite, but they're still gonna
Okay.
give it a go because that's got an interesting concept. And I think that's the thing about horror. It has that place for like high concept ideas where it's like, oh, it makes it even cooler because the horror theme added to this that makes it more interesting. I'd like to to check it out. So I say this all the time. Like I think being known for the niche of horror has helped because if I was to release a fantasy comic or a romance or something, or like something totally different, like the board game, I didn't
Yeah.
have a board game audience. I had to grow that organically and naturally all over again. So building the building blocks of horror has been yeah. So
So your audience wants to have an experience of all the universe. So they want to discover also, as you say, through the board games. So with also another media. So last time we speak a lot about board games because you started as a comics enthusiastic, and then you come through board games. For who don't know, we also worked together in one of your card projects, and it was based on folk horror, we can say. I don't know if you want to talk for a little bit about that project, and then also I want, if you want, or if you can, have a focus, on this new trend, which is the folk horror in general.
yeah. So the project we worked on was a project called Tales Unbound, and basically I've got them on the box here. Don't know if you'll be able to see it on the camera, but
Oh, there is it. Baba
Mhm.
Yaga.
and yeah, so you get it's a series of like story writing prompts for like D&D groups, DMs to help with their creative process and coming up with campaigns. And I was just talking to a load of people at the weekend in London, and how much they like the idea because it is in card format. You don't have to go through a book and flick through the pages. You can just like quickly open them all up and see them as a visual and be prompted that way when time is maybe a bit shorter. And then you also get 20 illustrated encounter cards, all about the legends of the creatures. And then on the opposite side is like themed missions and quests around that. And then you get 10 twist cards as well. But yeah, it was an amazing project. It was just so dense with info and packed with content. Really took a lot to write that one, and luckily it was in good hands with your design team and everything as well to look after and make it pretty. But yeah, folk horror has just been, I think it's been really growing in the last 5 to 10 years,
Yeah.
and was one of the most popular. So Wendigo Wood I pitched as my folk horror comic, and that was one of the most popular books that almost sold out at the weekend at the convention. Was gone. And I think it's down to, the lore of creatures, the lore of folklore in general. People find it really interesting. And especially in graphic novels, don't think you have plenty of novels, I think. There's plenty of novels describing things and stories about it, but actually to illustrate them and to have them, visualized. Because I think even the film medium, there's not been a boom or really anyone taking the mantelpiece on trying to do it so much. I also did a Welsh folk kind of folklore anthology of short stories, and that has been we've sold out the first print edition. Just second prints just arrived today, and that's like short stories based on Welsh folklore
Hmm.
in Wales. And people have been so passionate about it in Wales.
Oh,
Like
really? Oh, wow.
they really, really taking to it. And I think because as far as I know, there's never been anything like it. And especially, I think it's may even be the first Welsh horror comic. Because we did it in the Welsh language as well. So it made it even
Okay.
more unique. So it's introducing, the culture to other people as well outside of Wales, and maybe introducing their kids or stuff about
Of
Welsh
course.
folk they learnt at school. So yeah, definitely going to explore more in that world of folk horror. It's just it's very atmospheric, and that's,
Yeah,
I think, one of my favorite things about horror: atmosphere. The tension, the dread.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
one of the most powerful ingredients, I think.
Yeah, I'm totally agree with you. And also, as you said, these give you the permission to also try to enter horror atmospheres also to children that usually they stay away from horror. But folk horror, I think, as in comics, as in board games, as in cinema, it's something that now it's really trending. I don't know if the same people who watch horror in TV and cinemas can be the same people that also ask you to, read your comics or play your board games. Do you think that can be a mix between this type of audience?
I think so. Yeah, I think maybe the ones that I think if you want to read more about folk horror and you want to read more about folklore, that you're more maybe possibly passionate about it because you want to learn more about the folklore of things and learn more about the creatures or the legends or things that they've been up to. So maybe, yeah, you're more inclined to explore and try other things. Because that's why I did what I did with the board game. It was an expansion of the basically I did a comic series called Folk Tales of the Cryptids, which was like short stories based on creatures around the world like Bigfoot, Chupacabra, Mothman. And so then I used that to make the board game Survive the Tombs of the Cryptids, which was like a dungeon crawler but with cryptids. And you can play solo or co-op. So that's why I was, like I say, trying not to jump the boat too much and doing something completely new. It was kind of like a strand of what I was already doing, but in a board game tabletop format, so it has at least a bit of a chance to cross over that audience.
Of course.
And I think people did, it didn't fun, but there was that the people that did, it was
Okay.
from, that's why I think.
Okay. This is really interesting. Um, So you mentioned the board games, you mentioned your work, and you mentioned also Kickstarter. Right now, how many projects did you run on Kickstarter?
I think 64 maybe. There's one finishing tomorrow, so maybe that's 65.
The last one is finishing tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah, it'll be
Oh
tomorrow.
wow! Oh
A
wow!
new graphic novel called Empty Eyes. Really atmospheric, very cool art. So
And how it is going? Is
it's good, yeah, it's really good. It's got over 200 backers and I think just went over £5,000 today. So really
great.
happy with how that's going. So looking forward to it.
Great. How much channeling is to create your Kickstarter campaign? And lot of times when I also asked to other editors in the US, all the people told me you can never run for a Kickstarter campaign without an audience, without people who also following you outside of Kickstarter.
Yeah, so it's that's how it's grown organically initially. So each Kickstarter's been like a building block of building that audience, and you have that initial crowd that'll come out in the first 12, 24 hours, and then through the middle, and then others new ones will be like, oh, what's this? Well, this is funded. This is done so many campaigns. There's that customer like trust, to say you've done this before. That hits that point. I like the art. That hits that point. Maybe done back, but maybe they have to see it 3 more times. It's like the rule of
Yeah,
three in advertising. You have to keep seeing it. So, that way. So it's always been, that's why it's always been growing and it's not like kind of gone down because we've been consistent. Like I do a Kickstarter every single month. So, there's that expectation, what's coming to next, you're going to get it. So for because this is what's coming next on the production line. It's coming your way. So I think that's really helped. But yeah, that, and also, I do Facebook ads now. You have to feed the beast to, get some organic, because like you say, you have so many followers and you build them up on your own social media channels, but you just don't push it or don't show it anymore. It's not presented in a way that's not appealing, so the algorithm won't favor you. So that's a constant battle. So that I have to navigate and try to adapt to and change things. And again, just learning as we go, and also trying to just make comics here. You can't just be one man. You need to be all these different hats on. So yeah, it's always like I say, being at conventions as well, attending, getting new readers. Like the weekend just gone, never seen some of my stuff before, and you can tell like when somebody comes and their eyes light up and they're like, they love the stuff, and that once they buy something, they'll like it, and then they're gonna come back and find you again next time, or buy something online, or follow me or subscribe to the newsletter. That's what's really great about those Comic Cons, because actually connect with the reader face to face as well. Like I was saying earlier, I think that's really important, because you can tell them a bit about your story if they ask, and you can I make conversations, just not me just selling books. I always ask, they're like, what's the best book, and I say, what's your favorite type of horror, and then we can talk about horror films for a little bit, and then I can then suggest based on what you like. I want to put the best thing in your hands that you are going to most enjoy, so to try for the first time. So, and then again, hopefully that builds a bit of trust, that you trust what I'm saying to you and I like. So that's part of it.
And also, by remaining on the Kickstarter, did you use only, because I follow you on TikTok and on Instagram, but you are using all the socials, just not only for communicating with your audience, but also for maintain the news about your Kickstarter, and use just Instagram, TikTok. How many socials did you use? And my second question is, how much is the part of the production of your work, and how much is the time of you have to stay on social media?
The first bit is like the different parts of social media. I think I'm on everything, to be honest, except like the more niche things like Pinterest or things like that. So I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube, TikTok. I think that's all the main ones, isn't it? But it is difficult. But most of the time, it is copy and paste. But it is still difficult to do all that on different platforms. Sometimes you have to format something a certain way. Sometimes TikTok won't allow a song, or sometimes YouTube, you edit things to a certain way, and then YouTube. So there's that, but that goes into the next question that you say about how much is your time from production to social media. It's not so much just social media, it's everything else that pulls you away from production. So like, I think I've not written a script for maybe 4 months now. Done anything kind of like newly creative, if that makes sense. I'm designing things on Photoshop and making things, but not like making stories. That's what I was initially passionate about. But that's okay. That's the reason I'm not doing that is because the business is busy with doing either packing books with orders coming through, doing the customer service, speaking to people, telling them, replying to people, doing the social media, setting up the Kickstarter campaign, setting up the graphics for things, sending things off to print, digital proofing, editing, lettering. I'm sure I'll miss something, but it's not just the social media. So it's probably like, if you're asking the question, what's created, how much percentage of created and how much is everything else, I'd probably say 20, 30%, 20, 25% creative. Wow. And then the rest is the running of the machine, really.
Yeah.
Because and it's me. Obviously that'd be more if I was creating the artwork, but that gets outsourced to freelancers and artists to do, so which is good. Otherwise, I don't think I'd be able to cope.
This is really interesting also because as you said, you are one person through all these machines, so you have to maintain your control on your business, and also you have to maintain your creative control. And I think this is the this is the most challenging thing on through your business, right? And the next question is. What's one piece of advice you can give to someone who's now launching his own indie comic label or comic today?
What's it? Example saying they launched on Kickstarter today.
For example, or on Kickstarter,
to-
or if for example they have to choose Kickstarter and why, or for example if they can use some other methods.
Yeah, I'd say absolutely Kickstarter. I mean, it got me started. It's still keeping me going, so I wouldn't see any reason not to go in that direction. Kickstarter is constantly growing, and you have to think about it's constantly growing, that back account of potential people that have a Kickstarter account, so there's less friction to back in a Kickstarter and a comic if the interest lies in comics. But yeah, before launching the Kickstarter, I mean, before I launched my first Kickstarter in work, when I was at that car factory, I had these ear defenders, and you weren't supposed to listen to music or nothing, but you'd peel back the ear defenders and put your Bluetooth headphone in there, and I would listen to the podcast during the 12-hour shifts. And one of those podcasts was called the Comics Launch Podcast, and basically that is a podcast that talks about Kickstarters for comics. And I listened, so I think there was 150, 160 episodes of it, and I listened to as many episodes as I could because it talked to creators, it talked about people's experiences, and I listened to as many episodes as I could, and it wasn't until maybe 12 months later until I launched my own. So because I was doing this whilst the artist was illustrating the first issue for the book, so
Okay.
there was no there was a time ahead to plan. So I wasn't planning on launching anytime soon. I was trying to get as much knowledge as possible with how this thing works, And I also backed like 100 Kickstarters in that time as well, other people's comics, and checking them out, getting to know the people in that community that, I was probably going to come across maybe one day at a comic convention, or just learn and see and consume, what this new thing that I was getting into. I think that was also really important to do. So it's like, being alert and taking as much information in as possible about the thing that you're getting into is really important, because it can go either two ways. You could have a book that will never see the light of day because you got frightened off because you think it's just your book, your story that is bad, or no one wants to see it. I think about this all the time. I think, like, you could have a big comic writer, you could have a Robert Kirkman or anyone go under a different name and have a great artist and launch it on Kickstarter with no prep, no audience, no nothing.
Yeah.
It's not going to do $1 million because no one knows about it. And it's the exact same boat you're putting yourself in, because it's like literally no prep. It's not, so it's not you. So yeah, again, just like doing as much research and thing as possible. And, if you're passionate about it, it shouldn't really feel too cumbersome to do. Like, I was doing it whilst listening to, doing my day job. So that helped. It was that little light at the end of the tunnel that kept me going, listening to creators even if I wasn't doing it just yet, I was listening to others, being inspired by others about what they were doing. I
Of
hope you do it
course.
one.
You mentioned some words that reminds me a question that I didn't ask you. Um, you are an editor, so you can choose if you want to collaborate with artists or with writers, right? For example, if a writer gets you a book or a comic and he presents you with, I don't know, with an illustrator, um, how is the process? It's something that you approve, and then you start to work with the artist, with the writer. So you start to work with them, and then you decide before all the process if you want to go on a Kickstarter or you get through pass by pass.
Yeah, so we have a submissions page that's open all year round on the website, and has a few guidelines about things. Obviously, the number one thing I ask people to do is familiarize themselves with what's already on the website, what type of comics we're doing. People might
Yeah,
go on submission stage and not even know or check that we just publish horror. So it's like if you're submitting a fantasy or something, then it's not really gonna, I don't want to waste your time, and because we're not gonna look at that, and we're not gonna only because we're not gonna best serve your comic to an audience that
of
we haven't
course.
got maybe. But so the minimum guidelines on the pages, there'd be like five finished pages of artwork, and if you haven't got the lettering done yet, the script to accompany it. And we go from there, but there's all different types of hybrid things that have come through. Some projects have been finished, some are nearly finished, some need to be colored, and that's like a case by case kind of, you know, in terms of how I think this book is going to perform and how much we will get invested in it, and if I think this, that, or the other. So we go from there really, and we're a very fair publisher, I think. The writers and artists, they always completely own the rights to their own stories. Never take that away. I always say it's a creator friendly agreement. So if any film or anything else comes up their way, that's completely theirs. So there's that benefit to the creators also. Um, so yeah, and like in terms of editing, I do editing, so I will help. Sometimes if English isn't the first language, I can obviously help there as well. Do lettering as well, so I can also help with in production terms as well. So you don't have to hire or pay a letterer or something like that. So I can do that in house. So just it's really a collaborative process and friendly and fair process, I think, and I've always got good relationships with all the creators that I've been working with to this day. So you know, yeah, I'm very fortunate, I suppose, in that sense too.
Yeah, I can, and also I can confirm that it was also, for example, our last collaboration was really friendly because every time we had some job we asked you and you responded to us, and one thing that surprised me was you had a clear idea in mind that how you want to present one of your board game or comics. So, Joseph, I think we ran with all the main questions. I think we can just pass through the last steps of our call, and which it means 10 rapid fire rounds. So 10 quick questions. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. First one, it's very easy for you. Digital or physical comics?
Physical.
Black and white or color?
Color.
Do you prefer short stories or ongoing series?
Uh, ongoing.
If you want to create a comic based on a horror movie, which movie you will take?
Based on a horror movie. Saw
Okay.
or Silent Hill.
Oh, Silent Hill. Okay.
Both.
Okay. Favorite horror subgenre?
Subgenre. Psychological.
Okay. Um, one artist that you want to collaborate with.
Oh. Hmm. That is really bad. I don't know any like streamer.
You can
I
also
know
you can also you can also mention one very famous artist in the comic book industry from DC or Marvel.
that's even worse because I don't know. I don't read Marvel or DC, so it's even worse. Maybe pass on that one because
Okay, okay,
there's lots of indie creators that I want to work with. That yeah, so
of course.
they're my ozone basically. So I don't really look too far out.
Too far. Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Um, the scariest comic that you ever read.
Scariest comic. Oh, just anything by Junji Ito, I think. It's just
Okay,
uncomfortable.
okay. And the scariest movie?
Scariest movie. Um, scariest movie. I know this is supposed to be quick, rapid.
Well, of course, you cannot mention Silent Hill or so.
my brain is just fried.
No
I get
worries.
plenty horror movies coming in, but like to think like really scary.
Well, we
Maybe like
can change the question in this one if you want. Which is the next horror movie that you want to see in cinema?
um,
Because this was a year with a lot of horror movies from
yeah.
Sinners to, Weapons.
I really like the look of there's a film called Primate coming up.
Okay,
About like I think it's about a pet ape.
okay,
It goes like on a psychopathic rampage with the family,
okay.
and it actually looks like the ape looks scary. And I love anything. I love the Planet of the Apes franchise and stuff. So I think again this ape looks freaky. So it could be a good one.
Okay, okay, that's cool. Are you a person for the late night writing or you prefer early morning planning? Are you more creative on night or on morning?
I used to be late night, but now I have kids, so it's going to be early morning.
Okay, that was too easy. So, because you are Welsh and because you're part of United Kingdom, do you prefer to work with coffee, tea, or something else?
What? Sorry.
With coffee or tea or something else, for sustaining you with me while you're working.
Yeah, unless I'm a combination of at least 8 hot drinks a day,
Oh,
I'm.
really?
It's going to be a sad day. I'm in the
Okay.
garage. I'm in the garage. It's winter. Yeah.
How much? How much
Otherwise,
cold?
I'm going to be like Jack Nicholson in The Shining in the snow.
Last questions. 3 words to define Afterlight Comics.
3 words. Horrific quality comics.
That's great. That's great. I will just reserve this last part of the interview just to say thanks to you for taking a bunch of time for us and also with it was through an adventure for me, for doing this type of podcast because it was my totally first time. So probably my videos are full of horror and probably English errors.
I appreciate you having me. Really enjoyed it, and hopefully this time this is the one that goes up.
I think yes, totally.